Welcome back to part 3 of my Stranger of Paradise Platinum Guide. We're going to be jumping right back in where we left off with the Memories of Wind mission. This will be the one that takes us to the first sort of main story boss of the game. The enemies here are a pretty significant jump in terms of the damage that they can put out, so I guess just be kind of careful when you first start engaging them. I'm going to be trying a little bit harder to bypass fights just for the sake of time. These videos are turning out a little bit longer than I had thought they were gonna, so if you can get this button first try, unlike me, I fumble around with it, you'd be able to get in there probably without taking these hits like I am. But luckily the damage isn't too bad, and we left our buddies down there to just get beat up. But they'll catch up. They always do. This place is pretty straightforward for the most part. There's one or two areas that you might have to loop back around just to pick up some extra gear. But one of the best things is the areas that have these electrified walls. If you can knock an enemy into that, it's an instant break. So see if you can do that when possible. Or they'll just dodge out of the way like that. But still got him in the end. Again, the caster should be priority. I just wanted to try and knock that other guy into the wall. But I somehow aggroed these guys. I didn't expect them to be on me so quick, so took a few unnecessary hits there. And they're really beating me up in this one. Just say I'm rusty. We'll go with that.
Ourselves up. Looks like the switch controls them.
These turrets here, when you activate the power, they'll pop back up and shoot rockets, or some of them will shoot like a flame spout at you. If you spend some time and actually knock them down just by hitting them with your regular attacks, they won't come back up if you die for whatever reason, so you can do that if you're going to be going through an area a couple of times, you think, but for the most part, that especially, we're never going to go back there, so we can just run past those ones. A lot of elevator rides in this one, so you can use that time, like I said in the past, you can use that to optimize your gear, things like that. I think I did a lot better this time around with following my own advice and optimizing every time we hit a set of cubes. The flans in this one can be kind of a pain if you're a melee-focused class. It seems like the combo abilities still do pretty well if you can finish up with those, but for the most part, magic is the best way. And there's a cactar over there if you want to get some extra gear off of him, but we're about to go get a pretty nice set of gear, so I'm just going to bypass him. And then this is that same cube we were just out. We just did a whole loop, but because we turned the power off, that got rid of the barrier that was blocking us from coming here in the first place. But yeah, you want to hit this elevator first. This will take us down to a room with quite a few enemies.
Saw a woman on the way here.
And you can turn off the power if you're finding that you're getting hit into it more than the enemies are, but I found it a little bit easier to keep the power on and hope you can pin the enemies into the wall instead, get some easy breaks. Got one right off the bat here. That guy, I don't know what he was doing. He just backed into it on his own. Worked out for me. And there is a Tonberry at the back of the room, so I'm trying to keep him more toward the elevator so that we don't draw the Tonberry into the fight early and then they're just taking all kinds of magical attacks. When they block like that, it's annoying because you want to finish your combo, but they end up not taking the damage you thought they were gonna. Yeah, the Tonberry, man, these guys, they can be a real pain. I think the best bet is just, if you get them solo like this, just to activate your resonance, and then just be ready to go to town if he turns his attention to one of your companions instead of you. And then you can spam circle, like I said, to absorb those everyone's grudges. Cast them back on them. They don't do a lot of damage if you cast them back on them, but it could be worth it. And this is a whole set of Dragoon gear, so it's a pretty good upgrade compared to what we had. And it gives you pretty decent affinity. Oh, and that switch I was talking about, if you wanted to turn off the electricity, is right there. So you could go out before you even start fighting the guys and try and turn that off real quick if you're struggling with the electrical walls.
When we first met you, Neo,
But yeah, that
you
gear
said there
set's
was no
pretty
such
good.
thing as
It'll
hate.
get us through the rest of the level at least if you want to equip that, especially if you're playing Dragoon. That'll help you out, but the way the affinity works, it's not something you really need to focus on in the beginning. I think I mentioned already, but spreading out your affinity can actually be helpful because you'll gain XP for any of the classes that you have affinity for. So since I don't even have Dragoon unlocked, I don't think I wouldn't be doing myself really any favors by maxing out my Dragoon affinity. And then since I'm going to be swapping classes a lot, if I spent the time to set up like my Swordsman affinity or my Marauder affinity, I would level up too fast and then just be spending more time in the menu. So just for the purposes of saving time, that's one of the other reasons I use Optimize. Another one of these dark vents, pretty easy. And if you didn't find that Cactar in the other place, sometimes he's right back there instead. I'm not sure if those are set spawns like the first time you come into the mission, or if they're subject to be in some of the different areas. I'd recommend for this one you go down and get the Ogre first, because otherwise he can kind of be a pain. You'll think you're just fighting one of these little guys, and then he'll come out of nowhere and smack you with his axe or grab you. Use those everybody's grudges we got from the Tonberry to take him out pretty quick. Tried to get a ground pound in and take out some of these guys, but they just zip around too much. Brutal Tackle's really good for that if you unlocked it. Keeps up with their speed. And then we just gotta turn the power back on so we can use this elevator at the end for yet another elevator ride. We'll be doing that a lot in this mission. But it'll all be worth it, because the boss at the end of this one is actually pretty fun. He's one of the first ones that kind of forces you, depending on how you've been playing up to this point, he might force you to use a little bit of a different play style in order to finish him off. On this difficulty, obviously, you can pretty much just go ham on him and you'll bring him down one way or the other. I'll try to be a little bit more in-depth with the boss fights for these bosses. I've seen people tend to struggle with them a little bit more than some of the other bosses we've faced so far. Again, hit the cubes, optimize our gear, and we're on our way. In this one, I would recommend taking out the missile launchers here, just because we are going to loop back through here, so better to just get them done with, not have to worry about them. But most of the enemies you don't have to worry about. They'll either chase you and end up getting left behind, or you'll just outrun them. That's the flame spout thing I was talking about, the other attack that those things can do. These guys out of the way real quick, and then we'll just go hit that power button. Nice twofer there.
I can learn from this.
These guys, again, if I was quicker with getting in front of it and hitting the button, I might have been able to avoid all this, but because I fumbled around, I end up taking a bunch of damage. You grab this chest now, or wait, because we are going to loop back around here, so either way works. Then don't even bother with these guys for now, because you'll be right back up here in a minute. We're just going to drop down for a secret chest. And then we're going to loop all the way back around. Got some more elevator rides to look forward to. We haven't had enough of them yet. And I didn't think this elevator was going to take as long as it did to come down, so I just kind of stood here thinking it would it would show up a lot faster, trying to avoid the enemies, but probably better while you're waiting for the elevator to just smack a couple of them up. Or completely miss with ground pounds like I seem to be doing. Talk all this about how ground pound's one of the best abilities, and then every time I try to show it, I end up just missing completely. Gotta use it with the right enemies, I guess. Trying to use it on them ones that dance around all the time is just a recipe for failure. The big guys that lumber around, that's the good targets for it. And I wouldn't rest at these cubes unless you have like some upgrades you want to put on, but it just resets all the enemies that you might have already killed up here, so if you want to kill them again or run past them or whatever, you can reset there, but otherwise it's probably better to just leave it for now because we're going to be hitting another set of cubes here in just a second anyway. If you do decide to take these guys on, there is an earth or a wind elemental off to the left over there. I would take them out first. And then I forgot to turn the power back on because we switched it down below. I thought it was still going to be the way that I needed it to be.
Just getting warmed up.
Try not to forget that if you're just going to run through. But if you take out all the enemies, you'll be able to just casually do it at your own pace. And thankfully, not too many more elevator rides left. Depending on how much you struggle with the boss, I guess. There's at least this one to get to the boss room in front of us, but then depending on how many times you die, you might have to ride this one a few times after that. And don't worry if your buddies didn't get into the elevator with you, they'll join you. You'll be treated to a nice cutscene first, but the main tips I have for both phases of this fight is getting used to that soul shield. Pretty much every one of his attacks you can just absorb. I'd stay away from the whirlwind just for the simple fact you can absorb all three of them, but he tends to pair it with another ability, so I tend to back up on the whirlwind, wait to see what he's going to do, and then decide if we're going to dodge or block from there. There we go. Finally got a chance to show what that ground pound can do. See if we can get another one in. Nope. Oh, don't hit him during Iron Dragons. He'll make like a big windshield around him and it'll hurt you and make him resistant to damage, so back up away from that one. Breath, you can just get right in his face. As long as you're really close to him, it'll just miss you entirely. That's one of the good openings. Phase 1's not too bad. Like I said, just be cognizant of using that soul shield every time he does an attack. Be ready for it. And we're going to get another ground pound in a second. Activate your Lightbringer to make sure that the break bar stays down, because as you see there, he regenerates during this phase. So you won't actually be able to kill him by taking his health down. You have to actually break him to end the second phase of the fight. So activate Lightbringer, get a couple of them big heavy attacks in if you're using Marauder, and that's it. Phase 2 done. That's what I see most people struggle with, is they're trying to figure out, how do I stop the regeneration, things like that. Once you get done, there will be another cutscene, then you'll end up here. You can talk to your friends, get a little bit of their perspective. Once you talk to her, you can either use the console or talk to her again, either way.
We can select the fire crystal or the earth crystal.
And like she says, we have the choice of fire or earth. I'm going to go ahead and do earth first. If you chose fire, just skip to part 4, and we'll do the whole fire section. Then you can come back here for the earth section, and then part 5 after that, we'll jump into what happens after those sections. And we got our party members' jobs upgraded again. We have our 5th Warrior of Light, which when I got to this point, if you're, like I said, a Final Fantasy fan, you'll be like, what's going on here? There's not 5 Warriors of Light. This is garbage. But, like I said, stick with it. They know what they're doing. Pretty good story.
Just got a feeling, but I can't find the words.
Like this level, it's modeled after Mount Gegazet from Final Fantasy X. Pretty cool. The music they did really well, I think, as well. You won't be hearing it too much if you're doing like I'm doing and running fight to fight, because the battle music will be playing, but in the parts where you're just exploring, you'll be able to hear it pretty good.
Perhaps we may even have the chance to trek through a blizzard.
And you're supposed to activate this avalanche here, I think, as soon as you destroy this vent. So I came straight for the vent like I always do, and then the avalanche didn't activate. So I was like, well, wait, what happened? So I try to smack these pillars, see if there's some other way of activating it. Eventually it does happen, so I don't know what exactly triggers it, if it's like a place that you're standing or attacking a certain number of times or something. But if you struggle, then just do like I did, run toward it and then back away, wait for it to come through. And it just gives us an alternate route that'll loop around to where we could have gone out there, but we just get some extra gear if we go this way first. Bunch of bats, skeletons, some elementals. Just be on your toes whenever we're in the caves in this area. I like absorbing those supersonic waves because they're really good at breaking enemies. So if they start doing that, just be ready to spam your circle or whatever. And then you can hold on to it, and if you get overwhelmed, it's really good for crowd control. You get a bunch of enemies around you, place that in the middle of them. You'll just kind of stun lock them, give you a chance to catch your breath and plan your attack. Yeah, so this is where we would have came if we just came through that dark vent. So we just did a little loop there to grab an item or two. We'll grab this item down here, and then head back up to where we came out of that cave, and up the hill this time instead of down.
So your prediction came true, and we made it across just fine. Aren't we lucky?
There's a set of cubes at the top, so this will be a good time to rest up. Optimize your gear. Hopefully I do it. Come on, I'm counting on you. Hey, I did it. Proud of myself. And then we got a little fight here, and you can't activate the avalanche without killing the ogre. So you gotta at least get him down. And then that will probably break all of the wolves, so if you want to focus down the ogre and then let the avalanche break the wolves, that's probably the easier way. But if you're getting overwhelmed, then take out the smaller wolves first, at least, just to make it a little bit easier on yourself.
We must do better next time.
And we're cruising on. It's about the halfway point, I'd say.
What did this?
I don't know, but they look like they're sleeping. I hope their dreams
This area is pretty cool. One of the parts I struggled with, at least, during my Final Fantasy X run-through was this cave at the top of the mountain. I was kind of taken aback when I got to the end of it here, and it shows... If you remember, there was that part where you're underwater, and it's just you, Waka, and Riku, and you have to do that like quick time event thing to hit all the color-coded buttons based on their sizes or whatever. There's a pretty cool callback to that. You can knock down the icicles to help take those guys out a little bit quicker if you want to fight them, but yeah, just running past is okay too. You can avoid this next part if you stick up against the wall here, like just follow this wall all the way around, but otherwise just come out to where this ice is cracked, you'll fall down, and then there's just a ton of enemies down here that kind of swarm you all at once. There's the bats, the marble, I think a couple of wolves as well, so just be ready to counter as much as you can. I just want to get rid of the marble because I hate that bad breath attack. You can sidestep it if you go clockwise around them, but I got stunned by that bat while I was trying to do that, so I ended up taking the bad breath anyway. Then I'm silenced, so I can't even use his own abilities against him. It's just all around a bad time. I really want to avoid that if possible. Yeah, they're just working me. Can't catch a break here. Hopefully you handle that group a little bit better than I did, but then once you get them done, grab this purple orb. That's really the only thing down here. If you lose your visibility and you get lost, just run until you hit a wall, and then keep your left side to the wall, and you'll loop around back into the area where you can climb back up. It really made it hard to see in those areas. I know when I was first coming through here, I was like, what the heck? This will spit us out right back up at the top where we started, and then this time you can avoid that crack, obviously, because it all fell through. Grab this, and then right across from it, not going forward, just straight across, there's another little cave here that has a purple item in it, so we want to grab that one. You run past these guys, keep hugging the wall to the right, and that'll take us into another cave where we can finally see again.
Shall we take a break?
You've got my vote.
Optimize the gear. And we're moving on. And again, there's an avalanche here that you can activate. I don't know how to activate it. I assume that if you can activate it prematurely, you'll be able to help with this griffin fight if you struggle with it. But there's no hidden treasure or anything under it this time. So I'm not sure. Maybe it was just a hazard, or there's a secret or something. But it doesn't look like there's anything to me, so we'll just keep pushing forward.
I'm so over.
And this cave, it can be pretty confusing because there's a lot of different branching paths and they all kind of connect back into each other. I'm trying to take an optimal route here to just collect all the treasure and get through it. Basically, you're just keeping the walls to your right, and as long as you do that, follow it all the way around, you should be able to pick up the majority of the treasure. You might miss a few enemies if you just do it this way, but it'll at least take you through it. You'll get the treasure, and you'll end up on the other side. End up getting beat up by the bats here. I think I run into a cactar here in a second, and then I want to chase him down. Yeah, there he is. And then I got cocky because the last time we ran into him, he didn't do his headbutting stuff, so I thought maybe he'd let me get a combo in. This time he decided to do it. Get him, but then we alerted every other bat in the cave, so now they're all after us. So rather than just have them chase us relentlessly, we'll take them out real quick. Use their own spells against them. Works really well. I'm glad they did that. And then yeah, just keep hugging to your right. This will loop back around kind of to the other side. If you would have taken the left path instead of the right path, that's where that would come out. But just keep hugging the right and you'll end up at the end here where we want to be. Marbles aren't too bad. If you'll see them like wind up kind of before they do their spin attack. You can soul shield that. Bad breath, like I said, just keep sidestepping clockwise around them and you'll avoid it. You can back up out of the range too if you're quick enough.
I think we're safe.
So, what now?
And then it doesn't matter which order you do these in. I'm just going to do left to right
This is the same
just for
color as the boulder earlier.
the sake of doing it uniformly. And that's their version of the little quick time event from Final Fantasy X to break these seals. I just thought that was cool. Again, you can fight the enemies and do these the way that they're supposed to be done, or just go straight for the vents. The gear these guys drop isn't substantial, so you don't really want the dark vent to just be spitting a bunch of guys out. And that does it.
Foregone conclusion. Are those cubes?
I need a break.
This will bring us to the boss of this area, so do your prep. If you want to spend your job points, change classes, get yourself ready. This one can be a bit of a pain. If you have like poison resist on your armor and stuff, you might want to stack that up. But as long as you focus on his head in the first phase, you want to break that as quick as you can. As soon as it's broken, he won't be able to do the poison attacks anymore. But he has a lot of unblockables. He has some pretty wide sweeping attacks. He's just got he's a pretty big change of pace from what we've been seeing for some of the other bosses. But we got the head break, so the poison goes away.
We're running out of room to maneuver.
And then we're just going to focus on getting some body damage in between his attacks. Another reason why that sword fighter class is good for this. Have that interception aura on, so when he does hit you, you'll be able to just instantly counter like that.
Defenses are shattered.
Makes it a little bit easier. And phase 2, in my opinion, is a little bit easier just because he's very limited in his mobility. I know in phase 1 the rush attack was one of the things that got me pretty bad, but if you can break just a couple of these little, whatever, wing bones, then he'll stagger, and that'll give you a pretty big opening to do some damage. So I try to focus on them first. Watch out for that Petrifying Roar. It has a pretty decent AoE. You can absorb Icefall, but then make sure you look at him before you throw it back, because I just threw it off into the distance and wasted it. Try and get the second break and get a little stun on him. Come on, we can do it. I guess we'll just get the head instead since it's right in our way. Oh, got the head break. That works. And then, yeah, pretty big opening here. Get a little bit of damage in. And then we end up breaking him before we even get his health down, so that works out. But if you do find you're struggling with this fight, then that's my biggest recommendation would be to bring like Chakra. If you got that command ability from the monk class, it'll cure status ailments and boost your resistances to do that. Otherwise, if you should have gotten gear from that level that has poison resist on it, so you won't have to like go back to low level gear just to get the poison resist up.
So the earth crystals in here
Going into
somewhere,
this
right?
one, this will be
Though it's covered in darkness.
the next of the main story bosses, and this level design you might recognize from Final Fantasy XII if you played that. That was one of the dungeons in there.
This might be worth using.
You want to break these coffins as much as you can. A lot of them are hiding those purple orbs. They're just the item orbs. They're not the side mission orbs.
Alright, let's keep going.
You've looked better.
But it's good to break them and gather up some of that gear, especially at the beginning of a new level. As soon as you activate this chest, there's going to be 2 skeletons and a wraith that'll ambush you.
Time to go to work.
I'm just going to bypass them.
Like this, huh?
These 3 skeletons laying down activate. They start trying to overwhelm you, and I'm just running past it all. Watch out for those big red buttons on the ground, because they will set off traps. Brought that back from Final Fantasy XII, except this time you can see them without having to have a certain ability on.
Defenses falter.
But unfortunately, your buddies are going to just activate them repeatedly on you, get you shot in the back while you're trying to fight. So if we go up these stairs first, we'll be able to unlock the first shortcut that'll take us back to the very beginning crystals.
Secret passage.
We should take this
And
chance
then
to rest.
either one of these next 2 hallways, it doesn't matter which one you take, they'll link up to each other, but just for sake of efficiency, we're going this way first. We'll break these coffins, grab a chest here at the bottom, and then we'll loop around and I'll show you where that other hallway would have came out. But if you go out the other hallway first, you'd have to backtrack back to here. Get this chest and then scoot out of here before they can do too much to me. Watch out for the trap buttons as you run through here. Usually if you see these blood splatters all over the ground, that's a good indication that you should watch out. Around here there's a spike, so don't loop around this or you'll get hit by the spikes, but that's where that hallway comes out. If you decided to take the other path.
Attacking them head on is suicide.
And then here, you can just go straight in, gung-ho, and fight all those guys in the middle. But just in case you want to play it safe, I'll show you the other way to do it first.
Now then.
So, what now?
You can see up here, there's pillars on the other side, and we're going to use those to drop down on the Marlboro. If you want to take him out the easy way. If you're more gung-ho, I'll show that too. I'll show you how to do the pillars if you want to do the pillars, but then I'll just come down and fight them all. just in case you want to go that route. And this whole area that we're going, you can bypass that entirely and you'll end up on the far side of them without even having to fight them if you want to do that. Like if you don't want to even mess with the marble or any of them, you can just go around. But these are the pillars. You'll have to like time it, wait for the marble to get in place kind of, and then smack the pillars a few times and they'll knock down, do pretty good damage to him. You'll have to hit him with all 4 that he bypasses in order to actually kill him. So now we'll go down and show the route if you wanted to just go straight in. So I'm just coming from slightly to the side of where you just would have come straight in. I'm going to get the marble first. He's the biggest threat. He's even worse than the casters, I'd say, just because of that bad breath attack. He backed into a corner and just beating me up. You can see there's just a ton of enemies here too, and a lot of them are being spit out of that dark vent because we're focused on the marble. So it might even be a better idea, honestly, to take out the dark vent first, and that would just eliminate a good chunk of these guys. You'll see I'm going to spin around. You'll see how many of them it takes care of for us. But if you do find it a bit overwhelming, that would be one of the ways to deal with it. And then you're just left with the last couple of enemies that would have been here anyway.
Check it out, Jack.
Couple items to grab here. We got the chest right out front. We've got a purple ball over on the, it would have been the left side, or no, the right side as you're coming in. And then over on the left side, there's a breakable wall that's hiding a chest as well.
It's good.
But then up top where we unlocked that gate by where the pillars were, if you go the opposite direction and don't go through the gate, then you end up coming out right down over here. So either way, it'll all link up and you'll end up at this set of cubes. So optimize your stuff. Then we'll head out this way. And this is a cool reference to the demon wall bosses that you'd fight at the same place in Final Fantasy XII. Thought that was kind of cool. There's quite a few of them in this one though, compared to, I think there was only 2 in 12, but in here there's a ton of them. You can bypass a lot of them, but sometimes you want to kill them. There are chests usually behind them. And sometimes it won't let you bypass. Like this one would have just pushed us off the edge here. And I'll show what happens just in case you did get pushed off the edge. You end up down here, you'll take a little bit of fall damage. And then you just have to fight a couple of guys to get back up to where you were. And if you happen to break these coffins on the side while you're fighting this guy, they'll release some dark skeletons, so try to keep him away from those while you're fighting him. And then if you want the extra XP or whatever, you can break these coffins afterward and knock these guys down. But yeah, if you fell down, get done with that, come up the ladder, and it'll just put you back at the top, right where we came in after that very first wall. So that set of cubes would be just right back over there. You can see them. So we just jump back down, and now you would be behind the demon wall if it did push you. And then you can either finish it off or just run past. We're going to go up the ladder first, because that'll unlock a shortcut back to that set of cubes. Then we'll head down into the depths a little bit.
Now we've got an easy way back.
We can set up base here.
As we continue down the stairs, there's really nothing of importance. This upcoming area, there's a couple of fights that can be pretty tricky, especially this bigger griffin here. We're going to have to take him out to get the key to unlock the next door here. Again, I recommend the casters first. They have a lot of pretty high damage abilities, so if you can get them out of the way, that'll make the rest of the fight a little bit easier. But in the meantime, the other griffins will be all up in your business. I didn't know that they'd chase me back here when I ran past them, so it'd probably be better to just take out the first group in that first area. Luckily, they both ended up broken somehow, so I'll take that. Evens the odds a little bit. But then I'm going to focus on the Griffin because he has some pretty dangerous attacks. He's got this Dark Nebula, I think it's called, he'll shoot out at you, and it can do some pretty serious damage. So get him out of the way, and then if the dogs are still left over, or the wolves, I mean, finish them up. But we got the key now, so we're good to continue on. Heading down even further, and there's going to be two paths that split off here. You can take the right one first, and there's going to be a hidden chest off to the right in this little room, and then you could take the elevator up to the very first set of cubes at the very beginning of the level.
Why?
You don't want me to repeat myself.
Really, that big hole at the very beginning, this is where it connects to. I've tried jumping down that hole at the beginning to see if you can just bypass a good portion of the level, but that's a no-go. Optimize your gear, head back down, and we'll be on our way. Alright, and then continuing on, we'll take the other path. And this one, there's just a bunch of them demon walls. So you can fight the Griffin, fight the demon wall. Otherwise, you could just run past it like this. And then we'll continue into this area. And this area is pretty big, but I'm going to try and do it in the most efficient way possible. So starting, we're just going to go this way first, and this will take us to one of those purple orbs that unlock the side missions. And again, just a bunch of those demon walls activating. We're just going to bypass them. If you want to break them down, there usually is a chest or something hidden behind them. Let's double check here. Yeah, there's a chest on this one. Grab that stuff if you want to. And then once we drop down here in this next room on the left, there's a little breakable wall. Unlock the next side mission. So that one you gotta grab.
I despise this place. Myself. My weakness.
And then we're moving on. Go straight across when you drop down here first. Pick up a chest. Then we'll go back and go left from here to open up the shortcut to where we just were a second ago. We'll be right underneath where we started, basically.
Slightly smaller.
Are we gonna go back or what?
Another chest sitting by itself out here on the balcony. And then up there is where we ran past when we first came into this area. There is a chest up there, but we've gotten quite a bit of stuff already. So if you want to go up there and grab it, it's just hiding in the corner up there. A couple of enemies. Otherwise, just continue through this way. There's a Tonberry around here. We take them out, get the gear that they drop. Of course, they get me with the numb. Block the chef's knife, finish him off. And breaking that coffin got us another item. Just gonna leave those other skeletons. Go right through here, be wary of the trap. And coming out here, if you're collecting the yellow orbs, there's one of them out here. That's the only thing of importance. So if you're not too worried about those, you can just keep going the other direction. And that'll take us to a set of cubes and back up to the top section where we started. And if you did miss that chest, this would be another time you could loop around real quick and go grab that. Otherwise, we're just going to head right back down where we came from. Even further down below. Watch out for that, all those blood stains on the wall back there. If you get too close, some spikes will come out. These coffins have a couple more things to grab.
Flashes of these weird memories pop into my head.
Then we got one more item under these stairs here.
I hate that crystals protect us from that, and that's all that matters to me.
If you really like fighting the Marlboros, here's your chance to do it again. Otherwise, just go straight for the Dark Vent. If you luck out like me, he won't even attack you, and you can just bypass this area entirely. And then back in that big room where he was saying all that about, oh, we don't want to fight these guys head on. If you explored and went to the right initially, you'd have found a blocked gate. This links back up with that. I have no idea why you would want to go from the very end of the level back to midway through the level, other than just to grab this chest. But it does link up. I'll show you specifically what I was talking about. That place with the pillars you could drop on that big marble and all that. But yeah, if for some reason you want to rerun the level, you can do that from there. Our final elevator ride of the level, and then we will grab the last cubes and prep for the boss fight. In this boss fight, I don't know, it can seem intimidating if you're playing very carefully, staying far back and trying to gauge what he can do, but that's almost counter to how you want to be fighting him, because he has more attacks and he's more deadly when you're far away from him, so ideally you want to be up close and personal. If he does use the attacks you can absorb, obviously go ahead and grab them, fire them back, a little bit extra damage. Try and get in close as much as possible. You can just Soul Shield, Call of the Underworld. That's one of the only 2 attacks that can hit you at this range. Each time he does Call the Underworld in this first phase, he'll call in 2 of them skeletons, so you can either take them out, let your companions deal with it, however you want to deal with those. But that attack completely misses you. It's like Gaia's Wrath or something, so you can just avoid that entirely. He'll just keep teleporting away, trying to get some ground away from you. As long as you stay in close, that's the only other attack that can hit you. So if you're prepared for the Cross Slash and Call of the Underworld, then you'll be fine for the first phase. Going into the second phase, instead of Call of the Underworld, he has Putrid Ground, which will make like a big poisonous area if you stay in it. You'll get some debuffs, and then he'll also call 2 skeletons again. Just hang back, wait to see what he's going to follow up with, absorb those, and you can unleash them on him. Terrifying Embrace is the unblockable for this phase. It can do some pretty hefty damage, so try to avoid that. Sidestepping to the left or right is the easiest way. And he has a 3 and a 4 swipe combo like that. There'll be either 2 quick swipes followed by a delayed third, or 3 quick swipes followed by a delayed fourth. Again, for the most part, we're just going to want to stay up close. Just watch what he's doing and be ready to respond appropriately. Putrid Ground again, so we're going to back out. If you're bad with your timing, you'll get hit like me there. Got a nice stun to get some extra damage in. Our buddies broke this guy, so why not? If that Offering of the Dead hits you, it'll knock you pretty much across the arena, and then his follow-up swipes will just kind of be randomly across the arena too. Yeah, like that. It'll just knock you back. And you likely won't get hit by any of the other ones, but it does some pretty good damage. I wanted to finish him off with the curse there, use his own spells to finish him, but my companions were too quick. And that's it. Not too bad as long as you kind of understand his moveset and stay up close. Nice little cutscene after that, and then we're back at the Flying Fortress. And if you already did the fire area, you'll be moving on, so you want to skip to part 5, but otherwise this would be where we're going to be starting the other portion. So that'll be continued in part 4 here. As usual, toward the end of the video, we're going to go through, spend our job points, upgrade our gear, dismantle any useless gear, set up our combo abilities, command abilities, things like that. Just the usual cleanup at the end. As that continues, you can either keep watching. That's all I'm going to be doing for the rest here. You're not going to miss anything. So if you want to just skip ahead to the next one, and I'll see you there. Otherwise, you can finish out the video.